I'd like to welcome Mystery Ranch as a sponsor to the Western Huntsman. This is a great product. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Mysterium line. Those packs include the Sawtooth 45, the Sawtooth 65, the Beartooth 85, and the Marshall 105, depending on what you're doing with the pack. If you from day pack to backcountry, plenty of space. I like what they wrote on the website. Between the disciplines of calculated preparation and in-the-moment focus, an intangible alchemy exists. We call it Mysterium. It is our most ambitious, tech-rich line of Mystery Ranch hunting packs constructed for the most methodical hunters. I'd agree with that. It's a great pack, guys. I really like the ventilation system. When you put it on, it's nice and tight, but you're still breathing a little bit less of that buildup between the pack and your back when you're sweating and out there packing through the mountains and whatnot. It's a super functional pack, very comfortable. Very good at carrying loads. I've been using it all spring between bear and just like I do a lot of rucking to keep in shape, and it has done a phenomenal job. I've got a lot of top-of-the-line packs out there, and I've always kind of geeked out with packs, but I really do like the weight distribution and the way that it allows you multiple options as to where you're going to either carry a water bladder or one of those Contigo containers or whatever you're going to use. Really impressed. I love the ease of how everything functions on it too. You don't need to watch a bunch of videos to figure out how to undo everything to pack a bunch of meat out. That's really important for a guy like me, I promise. I'm not super smart. So the simplicity, the comfort, the load distribution, it all makes for a wonderful backcountry hunting pack. If you are in the market, check it out at mysteryranch.com/Mysterium. Back in the old days, there was this program called Layaway, where you can go into a store and start making payments on some high-dollar ticket item, and once you paid that off every month, it was yours. You could take it home. That's how I bought my first deer rifle from the Marine Corps PX on Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and it was the first weapon that I bought that I purchased myself. It wasn't a hand-me-down, it wasn't my dad's, it wasn't anything like that. So I went and I picked out this 30-06, and I just didn't have a lot of money, and so I did the layaway program, but I needed a scope on it, and the cheaper scopes were all sold out, and so I bumped up to this entry-level loopholed scope and put that on the layaway program and had them all, put the whole package together for me and all that. Made the payments and finally got to bring it home. Ever since then, almost every rifle I've owned has had a loopholed scope. In fact, I'm having a custom rifle built this year, and it's going to have the loopholed Mark 5 HD scope on it. I just killed a buffalo with that scope. It's a really great product. And loopholed, guys, you know them. Everybody knows loopholed. They've been around since 1907. They started as a special instrument company or something like that. But these American-made products are fantastic. Whether you're looking for a spotter, binos, a rifle scope, accessories, tripods, bipods, all that kind of stuff. You can find it all at loophole.com. And I'd really appreciate if you supported this American company that has a great American story. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of a company, and I'm so happy and thrilled that they've chosen to partner with the Western Huntsman. Thanks to Leupold, and thanks to you guys for supporting our great sponsors. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Tine Studio right here in Northwest Montana, and brought to you by Eastman's Hunting Journal. So, guys, welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. I know I missed a week here. It's been crazy between hunting in Wyoming and guiding and everything else, so I'm trying to knock out some episodes here in the studio. And Reekers over at Eastman's hooked me up with my new friend, and I'm pretty excited about this episode because Jason Wilson, you probably know him, and probably heard his name and seen some of his platforms, and been on a lot of podcasts. And yeah, Jason, you do your own podcast, don't you?
No, I do not do my own podcast, but I'm probably on 30 to 40 podcasts a year. And then Baker, I don't know if you know Baker, that works with us, but we probably work with around 200 podcasters. So we're constantly booking in guests for different podcasts.
Yeah.
So very, very familiar with the platform. So it's a great platform, a chance to talk and, let the conversation take you where it will. And, you've got a great show and your listeners, are pretty loyal. So I'm excited.
Yeah, man, I agree. I love the podcast platform because it is just kind of one of those things where people can. It feels like at first everybody, you're a seasoned podcaster, so not the case with you, but everybody's a little nervous at first, and then, once they loosen up, it's just a couple of dudes talking, and I like the authenticity of that, I guess, and it feels good to record again. I haven't recorded since I was in Wyoming like over 2 weeks ago. And so it's good to be kind of back behind the microphone, but yeah, Jason, let's kick it off with why don't you tell everybody, just in case they don't know who you are, a little bit about you, your background, what you do, and all that kind of stuff. We'll take it from there because we're going to talk a lot of bow hunting stuff.
Yeah. So my friends say that I hunt and fish for a living, and I would tell them they're not far from being wrong. But I own multiple companies, but one of the companies is a social media company. And I found a way to do what I love and get paid for it. And the great news is that I have employees that do the stuff that I don't want to do, but I stick with the hunting and fishing companies and, get to travel the world hunting and fishing and meeting amazing people. And we dabble in politics, trying to point the country in the right direction and gently, organically shaping public opinion and getting the word out there, the truth out there many times, because you can't trust mainstream media. You're talking about how great podcast platforms is. Honestly, that's been the only place that you can hear the truth for like the last 4 years, probably 8 years or longer. And
absolutely.
Anything that you see on television, and I'll tell your listeners this today, follow the money. There is everything that's on television is designed to make you like a product, dislike someone, like someone, vote a certain way or whatever. The only thing that was organic last year was probably the Hot Tula girl, and literally everything else is like follow the money. And there's a reason that it's on there, and it's very manipulative. And podcasts have been the only place that people could actually get the truth. And the censorship is getting better on your social media platforms now. We're seeing the censorship ease up. It's still not easing up the way that it should. But the podcast platforms are amazing. But I'm a Georgia redneck that somehow or another got thrown into meeting with millionaires and billionaires and being at the White House. But what I love to do is hunt and fish, and that's my thing. Like, take me to the outdoors, and that's it. If it wasn't for my niece and nephews, I would never go to Washington D.C. I'd move to Columbia or someplace like that. But honestly, take me to the outdoors. That's where I'm happiest.
Yeah. And so you grew up in Georgia, huh?
I grew up in Georgia. I had I've traveled a lot. I've been to a lot of countries. I had 6 years of being around the world and stuff. But yeah, I grew up in Georgia. I'm back in the same hometown that I grew up in. But I'm only here. My stuff's here. I get the opportunity to travel a lot. Next week I'll be in Las Vegas at a big gun shoot out at Staccato's Range. And the traveling can get old. Don't let it fool you, right? If I'm going more than 8 or 10 days a month, it gets aggravating. And last January, I spent 6 nights in my own bed. And there is nothing like there's nothing like being in your own kitchen where you know where everything's at to cook, or being on your own couch. And so do not let social media fool you. It's very much a job to traveling, and it's great for a little bit, but it's a job. It's work.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I used to travel a lot more for work than I started my own company, and so I don't have to do that anymore. And I when I was young, I liked it. I kind of liked the escape and the adventure of it, especially if I was road tripping instead of flying or whatever. But man, it just kind of starts scratching your soul after a while, dude. Right. And I just
it gets old.
Yeah.
It gets. But with that being said, I've met some of my best friends ever. Through social media or traveling and hunting. And I'm not someone that pays for a lot of hunting trips. I typically, I love spearfishing. Like spearfishing is probably the one thing that I like better than bow hunting. And I love wing shooting. And I'm just not as mad at the deer as I used to be with a rifle. I could care less about shooting them. But the traveling has allowed me to meet some amazing people that you would have never known existed. Where I think there's a lot of downside to social media. Social media does allow us to connect with people that have shared interest that we may not have known ever existed. And so it can be good and it can be bad.
Yeah, I mean, and we've had this talk a million times on the show. Social media is like this thing that I don't know if you want to call it a melting pot or what, but like great things come out of it, and some of the worst things in the world come out of it.
Absolutely.
And you get, it's cool because I get to keep in touch. As one of my favorite things is keeping in touch with like my Marine buddies. In fact, I was stationed out at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, so not super far from where you're at, but yeah, in terms of versus where we're at today, distance wise. But the South grows on you. But
were you a California guy or a Paris Island guy? Where'd you go to?
California, San Diego.
Okay. Oh, so you missed the sand gnats that are in South Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I heard about them a lot, but interestingly, I was just in San Diego last week for my brother-in-law's wedding, and I got to go get on MCRD San Diego and kind of tour around. I haven't been there since 1999, and so it was cool. It wasn't like an official thing. They had the they have the MCRD museum, right? And so that's what got me on the base. I told them, I'm like, yeah, I'm taking my wife and kids to go see the museum or whatever. And they're like, yeah, where's your military ID and all that? And I get on the base. I get over there, and the dang museum's closed because of the government shutdown.
Yeah.
And so we end up just like driving around listening to drill instructors yelling at recruits and stuff. And it was pretty cool seeing that again, man. I just, the recruits look so young. I can't believe that much time has gone by.
How old are you now?
44. I'm about to turn 45.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service. Next month is, I want to call next month Veterans Day month. Yeah. Y'all deserve an entire month. So thank you for your service a little in advance.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. But yeah, it's, next month is my birthday and the Marine Corps birthday and Veterans Day. So it's a big party on November 10th.
It's going to be a good one.
So, bow hunting, this is a good time to talk bow hunting, man.
Okay.
Here we are. We're at the end of October. I've been in the field. I just came out. I had a husband and wife hunter clients, and they both got bulls, and one got a whitetail buck and one got a mule deer buck. This was all rifle hunting, but I'm telling you this. So like, just so the audience knows, today is October 29th, and man, I'll tell you, the mule deer are starting to chase already.
Yeah.
They're chasing does. They're out there getting pretty spunky. The whitetail, not so much, but they are starting to gather that kind of pre-rut from what I'm seeing.
Yep.
And is it like in Georgia, is the rut in November like over here?
So our first rut is starting right now. And Georgia's kind of split up in a couple different sectors. So right now, if you get on the highway, there's dead deer all over the road everywhere. And you see the little young bucks chasing right and left. I was filling up feeders yesterday, and, a 140 buck came out in the middle of the road. He was chasing a doe. But our first rut where they're ovulating is going to be over the next 10 to 14 days. And you will see bucks killed. Look at the Facebook local. You're seeing people, they've got nice bucks that they're posting. They've been posting the last 2 or 3 days. And then that Thanksgiving week, the second time they come around, that's normally when you see our biggest bucks killed, because a lot of the does have already been bred. And but that November 25th, oh my goodness, it's a magic. But right now it's magic. I mean, it's good. So. We'll be hunting this weekend. We're going to hunt with the rifles. I got a couple of people coming up and film content, and we're going to try and get everybody a buck with their rifle really fast, and we're going to put those down and go right back to the bows. So I'm just I'm not angry at them with a rifle anymore. So
yeah. You do you strictly bow hunt now, or is that kind of your thing?
So fortunately and unfortunately, I live in the middle of farm country. All my friends are farmers. I shoot permits. I've probably killed over 1,000 animals with a rifle, and it doesn't matter if it's a 200-inch animal or whatever. I just don't get my heart rate doesn't get up, there's nothing to it. So I prefer 100% shooting the bow. Now, during the rut, will I take a gun with me? Because you may see a buck that you're never going to see again. You don't have a picture of. You may have a split second. They won't stop. They're running around. I will take a gun with me during the rut. Or if I'm doing that meat day where I want to shoot 5 or 6 does and we're going to process sausage this weekend or whatever, I'll take a rifle. And, first timers, we had a first timer in last week, Karina from San Diego, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
And she got her first time hunting with her brother. He was in the stand and she got an 8-point. It's absolutely amazing. And she's a ICU nurse that was a emergency room nurse. And I'm explaining buck fever to her and everything. She's, oh no, I've seen all kinds of stuff in the emergency room. I think I'll be fine. And then she shook uncontrollably for 5 minutes. Absolutely awesome, right? Right?
I love it.
But for me, it's the bow hunting. I thoroughly enjoy bow hunting. And if I'm gonna whitetail hunt, I will never shoot an elk with a rifle. I've never shot an elk with a rifle before. And for me, I like the bow.
Yeah. It's interesting. The older I get, well, I went through like this phase, man, where I was like, I picked up a bow, I don't know, 20 years ago, right after I got out of the service, and I became like this bow purist, this archery purist kind of guy. And that's all I wanted to do was I'd only hunt with my bow and blah, blah, blah. And I'd get my teeth kicked in, man, whether it was elk, deer, bear, whatever, just get my teeth kicked in. And I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I started doing a little more rifle hunting. And what I'm finding is, especially out here in the West, I live in Montana, so we've got a lot of long range bear hunting. We've got a lot of, just different type of country and different types of animals to pursue. And we're blessed with that. But man, I really enjoy all of it. I found that I enjoy rifle hunting for different reasons that I enjoy bow hunting. Bow hunting is where you're going to get that challenge, that extra added challenge of being a lot more intimate and up close and personal. And what I like about bow hunting is I feel like you have to come more prepared. You have to be a little bit more proficient. You have to shoot those bows a lot more often. And I'm not taking away from the skill level it takes. My 2 hunting clients this last weekend, opening morning, man, they both dropped bowls. One was at 360 yards. One was at like 400 yards. These are tough shots, and there's a certain skill that comes with that. But archery is next level, dude. And yeah.
Fred Bear probably said it best, that a week of bow hunting can teach you more than a lifetime of gun hunting. Mm-hmm. And your woodsmanship, your scouting, your understanding of the wind, your understanding of hiding your scent, bow hunting will, if you've never bow hunted before, bow hunting will make you so much better of a gun hunter.
Absolutely.
It will make you better of a gun hunter. And where I spearfish a lot, right? Spearfishing will teach you more about how to read your bottom machine than anything else, because you're sitting up on the surface, you're like, oh my God, there's a ton of fish down, and then you dive down there and it's a bunch of small trigger fish. But the experience that you get from bow hunting and looking for the rubs and the paw marks and just what you have to do to make everything connect on bow hunting is so much harder. And then you want to take it a step further than that, try the traditional, get rid of the compound. I shoot my compound better than most people can shoot a 22 rifle, right? And but it's totally different, and it will make you a better hunter.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that I took away from when I started getting really proficient with a bow was I really learned the behavioral aspect of these animals, whether we're talking elk or deer, and bear, but man, you nailed it with that, because if you can figure out the behavioral aspect of these animals that we pursue to a point where you can consistently get close enough to get a bow shot, and where they live, why they're in an area, why they're not in an area, where they're bedded during the day, why they're rutting now, why they're calling now and not tomorrow, and all those little things. Man, you go through all that and learn it with a bow and become proficient hunting that way, and then you go back to rifle hunting. Dude, it's
a game changer. That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so
a lot of what I'm going to talk to you today is about whitetails. But a whitetail buck is not going to walk with the wind. His biggest defense that he has is his nose. And if you know where he's bedding, if you know where he's eating, you know where he's drinking water, and you've got a pretty good idea of where he's bedding, depending on the direction of the wind, you may hunt this stand. Well, if the wind is blowing straight at you from where he's bedded, you're not going to see him. You're not going to see when he stands up, he's going to go with the wind. And you've got to understand the wind and be able to dominate your scent. And that is a big, big portion of it. And once you learn that portion of things, it makes gun hunting so much easier. I mean, it's
yeah. And that's why I wanted to get you on, Jason, is I feel like, we're knocking on November's door. We've got, the ruts starting all across the country. And I thought it would be really cool because you are, the tips and tactics, because this is a Western hunting podcast, right? But the tips and tactics that you guys back in the Southeast, especially, that you guys use to knock over these great big whitetail bucks, those can be applied on public land scenarios out here in the mountains. And
absolutely,
so I always like to get a really solid whitetail guru on like you, and do, we do a lot. You guys listen to the show, listen to a lot of the School of September episodes where it's all about archery elk hunting. Well, it's just as pertinent to talk about these archery November rut hunts for whitetail bucks, because, man, it is just as thrilling, in my opinion. I love a big whitetail buck, and everybody that knows me, you guys know I'm obsessed with mule deer as well. But the beauty of it is you hunt whitetails completely different than you do mule deer.
Totally different.
And we all have these November opportunities, except for you folks, I think in Utah. I don't think you don't even have any whitetail that I know of. But for the rest of us, we got whitetail. We're knocking on whitetail season's door. I wanted to start by asking you, Jason, I always like to focus on what you see with because you've got vast amounts of experience with a lot of different types of people. What are some of the biggest mistakes bow hunters make as they get into the whitetail woods with the rut season approaching? And I'm trying to keep all these factors in play, right? There's the rut. It's November. It's we're talking whitetail hunting, whether we're sitting in a tree stand, a ground blind, or just beating the brush and doing some still hunting or whatever. What are some big mistakes bow hunters make?
So we could talk for a long time about the mistakes. So the first thing I want to talk about is the bow and selecting your bow, right? And the perfect bow for someone is the bow that you shoot proficiently and that you actually practice with. Don't be that guy that picks your bow up and you go and shoot a pie plate and you're like, okay, right? I don't care what you shoot, right? If you don't take the time and put the time in to practice with your bow, you're not going to be particularly successful. Now, I want to make a confession. I shot PSEs for years. When the Z7 came out, I was a Matthews guy. Like, oh my God, I'm fixing to lose like half of your listeners. They're going to get mad. I've shot the Hoyts. I absolutely love Matthews. I have shot them for 15 years. I have a brand new Matthews lift, and I bought an Obsession this year as a backup bow. And the damn Obsession outshoots my Matthews. It's faster and more accurate. It's the craziest thing. I even took it back to the bow shop. But when I started, I'm about to tell on myself. You told on yourself. I have 40 years of bow hunting experience. I started when I was 14. And I remember like, oh man, my PSE bow, it was 214 feet a second. It was so fast. I was thrilled. I mean, it was like lobbing stuff at it, right? It was terrible. But today's bows, hunters have amazing choices today. And so the bow that you shoot, go shoot your bow. But I want to tell you the number one mistake, and I want to do full confession here. The first 2 years that I bow hunted, I shot 9 animals. I lost all 9 animals. It was freaking horrible. We're in the middle of the woods at 3 a.m, a half a mile away, trailing a doe. And I finally went to see Keith Williamson one day. I just didn't understand it. And this guy like coached Olympic, Paralympics or whatever, and went to see him. And we got up in his backyard and we shot a couple of times. And he's like, man, come help me unload this trailer. I got to get this trailer unloaded, which I thought was a little weird. And we went and unloaded the trailer, and we went back about 30 minutes later. And I took my first shot. And again, my first shot was off about 6 inches. And then, I could go to drilling a golf ball at 30 yards or whatever. And Keith stopped me right there. And he said, your problem is your release point. You have not mastered your release point. You're fine when you get out here and you shoot once or twice and you get dialed in. He said, the problem is deer don't let you shoot at them once or twice before you get dialed in. And the number one mistake that bow hunters make, and I preach this again and again and again, you have to be able to lay your bow down, come back to it 10 hours later, pick it up, shoot it. And I don't give a damn what your second shot is, your third shot or whatever. Your first shot, whether you're shooting 20, 30 yards, 40 yards, whatever, needs to be in a 3 or 4 inch group. It does not have to be in the 10 circle, but you have to consistently put that first shot. And that is the one thing that I mastered. And since I lost 9 animals in 2 years, I've killed almost 200 animals, counting hogs, and I've lost 5. I lost one to the river, lost one, I don't know why. Rain got one, and one I just hit a limb or whatever. But the number one mistake that people make is they go and practice, but they cannot make that first shot. You've got to be able to make your, and think about this, like, if you're going to go hunting tomorrow and you shoot your bow at 7 in the afternoon or 6 in the afternoon, and the deer doesn't come out till 9 o'clock the next morning, right? You've got you've got 15 hours that you haven't shot your bow. Or let's say you traveled to Ohio and you got on the plane and you shot it the day before, you traveled on a plane, you show up at camp, it's dark. Now you may be 24 hours later and you still haven't shot your bow. And then your very first shot, you're not there. And you think, well, I'm only off 6 inches. Well, guess what? They duck, they move. Yeah. So your 6 inches might have just went to 7 or 8 or 9 inches. Not only that, you might be shaking a little bit because he's 180 inches or whatever, right? So you got the adrenaline factor that's in there. And I tell people to 3 inches, 4 inches, because, if you're off a little bit, or if you're at an angle, if he's perfectly broadside, you might get away with being off 6 inches. But if he's angled just a little bit, that's the back end of one lung, and you're half a mile away and you still haven't found him and it's clotted and there's no blood or whatever. So number one mistake that bow hunters make is not being able to place their first shot on target in a 3 inch group when they pick their bow up. And I do not shoot 50 shots at a time. I may shoot my bow 3 times a day, and I might shoot 1 or 2 shots, 5 at the most, but I pick that bow up and I shoot it just about every day, and from different distances. And my first shot, I'm not going to win your 3D tournaments anymore. I can't see anything. I can't see the damn 12 spot, but but my shot is going to be in that 4 inch circle 99% of the time. And that is the number.
I love that. I love that advice, to getting that first shot. Being a guide gives me interesting perspective on, I get these hunters that come up that I'll take them up. We've got like this 3D range at the lodge, and we'll go shoot for a minute before we actually go out hunt. And they seem good. They seem like they're dialed in. Their bow's dialed. They've got the proper form. Everything's great. On a target, everything changes when you're in person and there is a buck or a bull or exactly something in front of you. And it's just, man, I had so many hunters just that if they would have focused on being proficient with that first shot like you're talking about, we would have had a lot more tagged out hunters, because we've had a lot of misses this archery season, and these are guys that normally you would think they wouldn't normally miss, and so I think that's great advice. And how do you get to that point,
Matt? It is a mastery. So I have a checklist, right? Every time I shoot, it doesn't matter if I'm practicing or if I'm in the woods. I've got a particular checklist on how I open my hand up, how I draw back, not making sure that I don't torque the bow, that I check the yardage, the whole night. Like I have a pilot type checklist that I go through. So when I'm in the yard shooting, the checklist that I go through is the exact same checklist that I go through when I'm in the stand. Once you have mastered your release point, once you've mastered it, it is just like shooting a 22 with iron sights. And if you got a left or right problem, that's normally because you're torquing your bow one way or the other. If your bow is going high or low, when I release the arrow in the yard, I count 1001, 1002, 1003, and then I drop my arm. That's my thing. Now, obviously, I don't do that, but it's the muscle memory, because I do not want to move my arm on that animal until that arrow has impacted that animal. Because our natural instinct is we want to shoot and look and see where we hit the animal. And that causes that arrow to go super low or super high or whatever. So for me, it's a checklist procedure that I go through when I'm shooting my bow. And again, I can't see the 12 spot anymore, but I can see the baseball. Like, I
Yeah.
can see it, and it works. And
I want to make sure that what you just said doesn't get glazed over for those of you listening. That's a super important point. What Jason is talking about is when you apply that pressure to that release, and you feel that the tendency is, and I've done this a million times, so I'm speaking, I'm not like lecturing, I'm saying this is how I screw shit up. Right? And so you release that pressure, and your instinct, just human nature, whatever it is, that arrow, and you want to drop your arm, that
see
front
where he
arm.
went.
Yeah, and I'm like confusing myself. So, Jason, I shot right-handed for most of my bow hunting career, and 2 years ago I switched to left, and so now I'm seeing myself in the screen. I'm like, man, my arm's wrong. But anyway, dropping that bow to try to get a visual on where that arrow goes has screwed up more elk, anything for me, I think, than anything. So I just want to make sure that point doesn't get missed by those of you listening.
When I shoot the animal and I let it go, again, when I'm practicing, I do the 1001, 1002, 1003. But when I shoot and the arrow hits and it's hit, and I do not follow the animal. I do not look where the animal's at until I like see that arrow hit and go, and then I lower my arm down, and then I look to where the animal goes, and that assures that my arrow is going to be on target. But people's natural tendency is to shoot, and they want to see where they hit the animal. They want to drop their arm immediately, and that causes that arrow to go one way or the other. And I got a bunch of different, I got a bunch of different tips here, and we won't go in a particular order or whatever. But another mistake that hunters make is, they set their target up out in the backyard, and it's in the wide open. It's out there in the very, very wide open. Well, whitetail deer do not like to stand in the wide open. They like the thick bushes. They like moving around or whatever. And I encourage people to, when they're practicing shooting, that they actually replicate hunting situations as much as they can. So, for example, add some bushes. If you've got some trees, if you have 2 targets, get 2 targets and put them there. And, I tell everyone to be patient, but not so patient that you pass up a good shot. If I have a shot between 2 trees that's 10 inches apart, his head's behind a big oak tree right here, and I got a perfect broadside shot of him, I'm going to shoot between the 2 trees. If I can't keep my arrow from being 6 inches off one way or the other, I probably need to practice a little more before I go out shooting. But replicate hunting situations as much as you can. Don't always shoot at your target out in the broad open. Get out there in the woods some, wherever you got, practice it. Use multiple targets, to make sure, because it's, I compare it to the golfer. Think about this golfer that's just amazing on a par 3, and he's super great at the par 3s. And then you got a par 3 that's got water in there, and he gets up there, and what's he do? He slices off over here. It just, the mental portion of it just screws with them so freaking bad, right? So go ahead and practice having the water in front of the hole in your yard, because it's going to give you way more confidence when you get out there to shoot that deer.
Experience the evolution of accuracy with the new Browning X-Bolt 2. Guys, this rifle is something else. With the introduction of the X-Bolt, Browning has set a new standard in the development of bolt-action rifles. It was created around the goal of total accuracy, where every component worked in unison to improve downrange performance straight out of the box, from windswept tundras to rocky peaks high above the tree line to African plains and everywhere in between. The X-Bolt delivered the tack-driving accuracy a Browning rifle is respected for. And that's super true, guys. I really like this rifle from a standpoint of, like, it's not super heavy, it's not super light. I put a really nice scope on it. I love that Veritech stock, because that is like one of those pieces of accuracy that, that interface between the rifle and the shooter. Not everybody's the same size. The DLX trigger, you can get the Plus magazine system for extra rounds. Great all-around rifle in the field. For those of you that are looking for a rifle this year to take to the field that you can feel real confident in and get really comfortable with, this is the rifle to check out. The Browning X-Bolt 2 should be one of your top contenders. Link is in the show notes. I love man. If you ever find yourself in Northwest Montana, I want you to come over to my place. I set up a little 3D range I've got a little 15-acre homestead here we live on, and I'm in the thick woods, man. I mean, this is old growth coniferous type forest, and I set up this elk. I can't remember the name of the elk target, everybody knows them. That it's that like 3/4 sized elk or whatever,
Right.
or 1/4 sized elk, or I can't the name brand. I'm sorry for. Luckily, they don't sponsor the show because I'd screw it up right there. But anyway, I set it up so that there's this 30-yard shot where you're shooting through this little copse of trees, this little bunching of trees, and there's little teeny limbs, and you really have to pay attention, or you're going to limb one of those arrows. And I love shooting with guys like you because I could tell you're passionate about the art of archery hunting, right? And it's always super helpful for me to shoot with guys like you because I always pick up these little things like that reminder to not drop the arm and to practice in those positions where, because that's that point you made. I know we're talking whitetail, but I can't tell you how
applies to everything.
it is.
It applies to elk, or mule deer, any archery hunting. Our tendency is to drop that bow and look where the shot went. And
also the straight practice that you were talking about, like, anybody could become a really good archer shooting, in the backyard at 20 yards where it's just wide open and you're on flat ground, and man, elk do not come in.
They do not walk in the wide. Like they don't do that all the time. Yeah.
The quartering twos, the quartering aways, all that stuff, man.
Yeah. This is a little bit more advanced, but I mean, it's not that much more advanced or whatever. Understanding what your arrow is going to do in flight. Now, most people don't know that today's bows are super fast, and 0 to 30 yards, you can shoot with your 30-yard pin. Like, it's not going to make that big of a difference, right? And people get up at 5 yards and they think, oh my God, I'm at 5 yards. My arrow, like I've shot my target at 5 yards. I haven't shot my target at 3 yards. I know what my arrow does, but I also know where my arrow is going to be in flight. For example, if I'm 35 yards away from a whitetail, and right across his chest, exactly where I'm wanting to aim, is halfway in between us is a 2-inch stick or a 2-inch limb. I could care less, right? I'm literally going to aim exactly at that limb, right where I want to hit him in the shoulder, and let it go, because I know that my arrow is going to be over that limb when it's there in flight, right? Your arrow traveling in flight. I don't worry about that. And I also know that, like, you have to be careful, because you might, depending how far it is, you might hit something that was above you. And going to Oregon this year, knowing what I was going to be shooting in Oregon, dear God, it makes Georgia look like it's wide open, like you're on the plains or whatever. I spent a great deal of time practicing this year, making sure that I could put an arrow through a 6-inch hole for Roosevelt. But taking the time to shoot your bow, and little tips. And I know you guys don't hunt out of stands a lot, right? That's one thing. But, if you're going to be seated in a stand, you need to practice shooting seated, right? And this is another tip. If you're hunting in a climber and it's got a rail around you, I don't know how many people have drawn back and shot, and then the bottom limb hits the rail that's around the climber. Get in that climber, get up there, practice, make sure that you're over it. But there's just a ton of little tips that smart people make a mistake once and they learn from it and never make that mistake again. And the average person will make multiple mistakes, and dumb people, they never learn. But really smart people learn from other people's mistakes. And if you can take some of these tips that took me 40 years to learn and apply them to what you're doing, like, you'll come out way, way ahead, and you'll lose. If you'll just master making your first shot count, you will cut the amount of animals in half that you lose. If you can just put that first shot on target, and that includes not dropping your arm or whatever, you will literally cut the amount of animals that you lose in half.
I want to go back to the tree stand topic for a minute, Jason, because I'd say that, like, the popularity of the use of tree stands is increasing here out west, and it's like I've had and Troy Pottinger, he's been on the show a bunch, and if you guys listening are hunting public land mountain whitetail bucks, you need to go back to like last year and the year before and listen to Troy Pottinger because he talks a lot about that kind of stuff, but he's been preaching hunting from a tree stand for years. And what he does is he hunts these bucks year round, man. He goes out there in the winter, he finds their sheds, and he's building mock scrapes, and he's finding these public land areas where he could set a ladder, he uses these weird tree stands. He's crazy. He gets like 30 feet up.
Same.
Do you really?
I do. Absolutely.
I don't love it. I don't love being that high up, but we do, like at the outfitter, we have a bunch of tree stands like sitting over wallows, and that's a really great way to kill bull elk. And like during this time of year, we've got a lot of tree stands where we're setting hunters in for these whitetail areas, whether it's over a meadow or whatever.
So they're becoming more popular. And, you know, I've talked a lot about the use of ground blinds. And I like the ground blind because what I have no scientific data to back this up, but I have found that I can get away with a lot in a ground blind.
Correct.
By keeping that scent kind of locked in there.
Correct.
And so what are your thoughts on the use of like ground blind versus tree stand, and how do you determine which one you're going to use?
So in some cases, you don't have a choice but to use a ground blind, and ground blinds are great. There's plenty of products like Ozonics. I think people swear by it. I am a rubber boot guy. You will not catch me whitetail hunting with a bow without rubber boots on. Smoking out your clothes and your hair. I am religious about smoking out my clothes and my hair. And guys, if your wife, your daughter, your girlfriend, if you go back, smoke is one of the oldest techniques to hide human scent. It's been used for thousands and thousands of years. It was used by American Indians. It was used by Fred Bear. Jeff Barron does it. Girls put so much conditioner. They put so much conditioner and hair products in their hair. I don't care if you're using dead downwind or you're using whatever. It's almost impossible to get that smell out of their hair. And whitetails knows, I tell people who don't hunt, like think about the 4th of July barbecue and somebody ate blocks over is grilling hamburgers or steaks and you smell it. That's what you smell like without perfume or anything to a whitetail. It's that strong. So if you don't dominate your scent, it's a big deal. So we take it, we build a small fire with leaves and we smoke out all of our clothes and get that. And then I'll have like Kelly Young and Laura coming hunting this weekend. I'll have them get over the fire and smoke out their hair. And you will not be able to smell anything, no hair products, no anything. All you can smell is smoke. And if you use I use Kill Drift. They have a little drifter. I don't know if y'all can see this.
Yeah, I can see that.
I use Kill Drift. You can put it in a thermocell. You can put it in they have a drifter that's electronic or whatever. Thermocells, sometimes when it's cold, it don't work. But if you smoke out your clothes, your hair, get that smoke smell on you, and use this, you just about can hunt directly in front of them with the wind. I try to never hunt directly in front of bucks, right? I always, in the climber, going back to the climber thing, the reason I like the climbers, we have feeders here. We can feed in Georgia. It's legal. The big bucks will not come to that feeder to eat corn unless they're chasing a doe. They'll come in the rut. Other than that, they're going to stay somewhere else. But they have trails where they bed, where they rub or whatever. And the thing about a climber is you go in there smoked out, you go in there with rubber boots on, depending which way the wind's blowing, you can get on the bottom side of the trail or the top side of the trail. And that's the big advantage that the climber gives me. I know which trees I'm going to be in. I already know which trees I'm going to be in. And I've got an idea on the trails, but the climber allows me to sneak in like summit climbers. There's tons of them. Summit climbers are super, super quiet. The other thing that I do with the climber and or stand, this is not so much a out west thing because you guys do a lot of spot and stalk. I tell people, for the love of sweet baby Jesus, stop guessing distances. Stop guessing distances. Like, how many people have you heard say, I shot right over him or I shot right under him, I missed the distance or whatever? I want to take it a step further than that. I want to tell you to put your rangefinder down. For example, where my ladder stands are, where my ground blinds are, the trees that I know I'm going to put a climber in, I will go out there early in the year, and at 20 yards, I'm going to put 2 big sticks at 20 yards. And then at 30 yards, I'm going to put a pile of pine cones. And at 40 yards, I'm going to put 4 sticks or whatever. And every shooting lane that I have that from that tree, and I'll have my rangefinder with me. Don't get me wrong. There may be something that's crazy, but every spot that I've got from that tree that I'm going to be able to shoot, I've already got a marker on the ground. And if he's halfway between the 20 and the 30, I mean, it doesn't matter if he's at 26 or 24, it makes no difference, you know, regardless. But so many people are guessing at distances for no reason. There's no reason to guess at the distance. And when that buck is coming in, if you got to wait for him to go behind a tree once to range him, and then you put your stuff down, and he's walking really fast behind a doe or something, well, now he can see you and you can't draw back. That time that you took to range him could be the time that you drew your bow back. So when he's coming and the movement, you think about this, all right, I'm going up to range this animal. Well, you didn't see this doe that was over here 20 yards behind you, right? How many times have you moved in a stand and there was a deer that you didn't see? So deer don't like movement. They're not big fans of that. So the less movement that you have, the better off that you are. So when I'm getting in a boat, when I'm getting in a climb, and there are times that I may put up a climber. I'm not going to go in and walk all around the stand on the same day that I'm hunting. But when I know that I'm going to be hunting these trees, I know that I'm going to be hunting this ladder stand or whatever, I'm going to have all my distances marked on the ground. And for people who are guides, for example, like if someone's going in, make it easy on your clients. If you know they're going to be in a stand, go ahead and 2 big sticks or logs or limbs or 2 big rocks at 20 yards, 30 yards, whatever, mark it out there. Like if these people are going, don't have them guessing at distances. There is no, like, bow hunting is hard enough without making mistakes that you don't have to make. And but climbers, I absolutely love climbers, especially when I'm hunting for big deer. And that's a way that I can quietly, I can quietly sneak in there and get onto the tree that I want, or I'll have that climber sit. I probably have 15 climbers in the woods right now. That I can just walk
preset.
through. That's preset. And some of there may be climbers that are 40 yards apart from one another. There's one head that these deer funnel through, and they're always funneling through that head. It's just a natural funnel that comes there. And I've got a climber, and depending which way the wind's blowing is going to determine which climber I actually go and get on.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. What kind of things, like, because you've hunted a lot out west, so I'm curious if you were coming out, let's say to Montana or whatever, Oregon, Colorado, and you were coming out here to bow hunt for rutting whitetail, what kind of things are you looking for on a mountain per se, or I guess it doesn't necessarily, there's a lot of agricultural, lower areas, whatever. It doesn't necessarily need to be on a mountain, so disregard that part. But what are you looking for to position and locate an area to set a tree stand in? Like, is there a terrain feature or something like that? You know what I mean?
So I have not gone out west to hunt whitetail. My trips out west have been mule deer. Shot a couple of antelope and elk, right? So I have not gone out there. But I'm typically looking for that food source that they're going to eat, and the travel corridor. If there's anything that naturally funnels these deer, and like you guys have the advantage of water. Like it was super dry till a few days ago, and we were having deer come to water. It's great when they, it's like Africa. They're coming up here drinking for 5 and 10 minutes. But if you've got that heavily traveled path, and Paul marks scrapes at certain times of year are great. But those rub lines, those traditional rub lines that are funneling these deer through air, I'm looking for that funnel that's got a heavily traveled path where you've got his rub marks. That big buck is going to rub those glands around his eye and everything. He's going to get his scent on those rub marks. But I like natural funnels, and I like between where they're bedding and where they're eating. But the first thing I want to do is look for somebody with some local knowledge, because there's absolutely nothing that beats local knowledge. And I see a lot of people that when they go out west, they skip from one unit to the next, or you're like, we did this and it's a terrible unit or whatever. I encourage people to hunt that unit a couple of times, if you can, because what ends up happening is the more you hunt it, the better you get. You swap to another unit and you're in another unit that you know absolutely nothing about. And for this Georgia redneck, the hardest thing, oh my God, I hate these things called thermals. Like it absolutely, that took me a little bit of time. Like I had to figure that out. But I killed my first trip out west was in Craig, Colorado. And I killed a 6x7 the second day I was there, the second afternoon. And the first afternoon I got in, they put me at a water hole. And like the cows were there, the mule deer were there, the bears were there. The next morning, there's a like reclamation land at the coal mine with all this alfalfa planted. And we got on the trails. That was leading back to where they were in the mountains on the private land. Everything had already passed through. And I told Levi to God, I'm like, dude, I think like all the big bulls have left. Let's go get on top of that tall mountain and let's see where these elk are going. And we literally went and just sat up there and we watched the elk go back up on top of the mountain that day. And I said, Levi, those bulls are not going to make it to the water hole, because he was going to have me hunt the water hole that afternoon. I said, they're not going to make it to the water hole before dark. I don't think they are. I'm like, there's a little delta that comes down right there coming down the mountain. If we can get to right there and set up halfway up that mountain, I think the cows and everything will pass us and we'll actually get a shot at a bull. And that's how it happened. My first elk was at 13 yards. It was the scariest. It was the scariest shit, most amazing shit in my entire life. So like they bugled. I didn't think he was bugling because it went up the mountain and then there was a little dip and then the mountain went up again. And the first time he was bugling, I didn't think he was even bugling at me. And then, he's calling again and it gets a little louder. And all of a sudden he tops the hill and it's super loud. And I could see him come. You know how Craig, Colorado's got like, it's very bushy, right? You got the Quakies in the bottom, but like these 10-foot bushes. And I could see this elk, his horns, as he was running, like jogging down the mountain and the rocks falling. And I'm in leaf camouflage in the middle of this. I'm thinking he's down there. He's literally on the trail that I'm on. And he stopped and it was a frontal shot and he ran 33 yards.
Wow.
And I was shaking like a leaf and I was hooked. Like I was literally, I will never shoot one of these with a gun. Because out there, you can shoot from mountain to mountain. That's shooting. That's not necessarily hunting, but that is what hooked me on archery elk hunting. My first elk in Craig, Colorado, over 20 years ago.
It's just something else, man. You get a 700-pound animal with these giant forks and swords and sharp things on his head. It's just, and especially if they're screaming when they come in, and I don't know. I don't want more people to get into it, but I also feel bad for people that have never experienced an archery rut elk hunt.
I was about to let the arrow fly and jump off the trail. And the guy, Levi couldn't see, and he finally caught him, and he stopped dead frontal. And Levi called, and he moved just a little bit to the side, and I was able to put it in front of his shoulder and run it through, and it buried up to the fletching. And he spun around and stopped, and it was just like it was a water spigot pouring out.
Oh yeah!
I had another one drawn back, and he started wobbling and went to run. And when he ran, I shot him quartering this way, and on the inside, the arrows were like this. And he made it
crisscross, perfect.
Crisscross. He made it 33 yards.
That's awesome.
It was absolutely amazing. It was the hands down probably the most amazing bow hunting experience I've ever had. And I've had some great experiences with elk after that, but that one being my first one, it was crazy.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. I those stories like that just never get old to me. And I always try to start. Or I always try to do these podcasts where it's off topic, whatever. It always somehow circles back to archery elk hunting in one way, shape, or form. But it just because it is that big of a deal. It's a great time and it's a great experience. It's unforgettable every time.
Let's get back to some bow hunting tips.
Yeah, man.
One tip that I'll tell people is practice from distances that you'll never take a shot from. I'm not going to shoot at a whitetail generally at over 40 yards. In my scouting, I shouldn't have to. You start getting, they're really fast. They're not a lot of elk. They're not going to stand there, right? But if you start taking shots from 60, 70, 80 yards, it makes that 20 and 30 yard shot so much easier. And I compare that to practicing. Like if you ever played pool on an 8-foot regulation pool table, and then you go into a bar room on a 6-foot table, like it just literally it's night and day. But by practicing those longer shots, it makes the close-in shots so easy. And we touched on it. We touched on it a little bit ago about replicate hunting as much as you can. One thing that I tell people to do, it's very hard to replicate adrenaline, but take your bow, pull your bow. Like I can't tell you how many times I've had to hold my bow back, right? And you hold your bow back till your arm goes to shaking. And when your arm goes to shaking, that's about as close as you can get to replicating adrenaline. And when it does, compose yourself, gather yourself, focus for that second, and make the shot. And I encourage
that's a good idea, man.
Once or twice a week, do that and make the shot. Do not get out there and practice so much with your bow that you get fatigued. These people that go and shoot 200 or 300 shots or 100 shots, you pick up terrible habits. Like you want to build your arm strength, do some bent over rows or whatever, but don't go out there and practice to the point that you get fatigued. Because I also want you practicing the same checklist that you're going to use. You don't like literally practice the same checklist. If you go out there and go through that checklist every time and try and shoot 100 shots, I mean, my God, dude, you're gonna be there a long time. So
yeah, for sure.
But replicating the adrenaline is a big thing. Let me see.
That's a great tip, man. That's a great tip. I would have never thought to do that. Like just hold the bow till you just start, because you do inevitably start shaking.
Yeah.
So anyway, great tip.
If y'all will go. My Instagram page is YetiMan10. There's actually some videos on there, some how-to videos. I use an old Scott release that's probably 15 years old. It goes on your wrist. It comes around, and a lot of people like the different releases. I love the Scott release, and I did this the other day. I think I had to hold my bow for about 7 minutes, and I still didn't get a shot on a 140-inch buck.
Wow.
But the one thing that wrist strap allows you to do is you can spin your hand inside the wrist strap, and you can put your hand on the back of your neck, and it takes all the pressure off of your arm. And you don't need to be doing this, like when you do this, practice it in the yard, get out there where you can't, whatever. But you can take the pressure off of your arm, and you can literally lock your other arm. You can hold your bow for a long time. Whereas otherwise, you try and hold a bow for 2 minutes, you're going to be shaking like a leaf. I don't care who you are, right?
Yeah.
And let off on the bows are great today. But if you do shoot a release that has a wrist strap on it, and there's actually a video on there, you can roll your arm inside, place your arm on the back of your neck, and then you can roll your arm back around, coming up behind the trigger, keeping pressure forward, and then you can shoot. And again, I had a giant buck. I could have killed him with a rifle. Had a rifle and a bow with me the other day, and I got swapped around. Like, no, I want to kill this buck with a bow. And he came down.
I'm looking at my release as you. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah, but he came down the fire break, and he was coming to me, and I grunted to him to get him to come to me, and I couldn't see him through the thicket at about 35 yards, but he had a clear view of everything, and he was looking for that deer that grunted, and he didn't see it, and then the buck never came in. So,
wow.
But that rolling your wrist and using your neck to take the pressure off of your arm and shoulder will extend the amount of time that you can. I mean, you can literally hold it for 10 minutes if you want to.
Yeah, I've got a Scott release. I think I could do that with that because it does rotate.
Yeah, it does. It rotates and spins around, and you can literally put your hand right here and take that pressure off and spin, because you're holding your bow for 2 minutes, and you go to let your bow down, and it jerks and it ding 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 ding, like it. I don't care. It's terrible movement. It's going to make sound, but that will extend the amount of time that you can hold your bow back. And
that's a great tip, man.
That's more of an advanced tip. And again, you need to practice that in the yard to make sure that you don't touch the trigger. And when you come back around, you want to come back up behind the trigger, sliding up, and keep that pressure forward, and then get there and make the shot.
Okay, I love that
and
one.
There's a video. There's a video on my Instagram.
Yeah. So, and again, for those of you listening here, the Instagram is YetiMan10. That'll be in the show notes. I always put the Instagram in the show notes. I'm not sure. I'm not going to go searching for the video right now, but yeah, cool, man.
Let me see. I don't know, dude. We can literally talk about this forever and a day.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, just the biggest thing is learn to of everything we talked about today. If you can pick your bow up and put the first shot on target inside that 3 or 4 inch thing from 30 yards, 40 yards, you're going to be wildly successful. And I can't tell how many people they're off, 3 or 4 or 5 inches. That's 3 or 4 or 5 inches in the yard. Deer's not moving. They're really fast. And elk, they don't move so much. But deer, whitetail, dude, there's also a video on there. Laura Longnecker, we're in the same tree. We're literally in the same tree. I'm above her with a climber. There's a doe at 18 yards. And her bow is 280 feet a second. The girl's pulling 68 pounds. There's a slow motion video. But you can see that doe, she literally drops down about 9 inches. Yeah. With a 280, this girl's pulling 68 pounds. Her draw length is maybe 2 inches shorter than mine. She's 5'8". And but you can see just how much that doe drops down. Now, we recovered the deer in like 80 yards. It was great. But they move. So if you're off 4 inches and they're moving, maybe they move in your favor, maybe they don't. And but again, that first shot is a big deal.
Yeah, and that's a critical point too that you make about them jumping the string, basically what we call it. And yeah, if you're like a super experienced mule deer archery hunter or bull elk hunter, whatever, elk in general, that is a huge difference. I had a hunter miss it was probably a 140, 150-ish whitetail this last September. I had him in a wallow and in a tree stand, and man, that buck came into that wallow, and because it was pretty dry week, that deer jumped his string. That arrow went right over his back by 2 inches and stuck in the deadfall behind him, and we never saw that buck again. He was coming in every day, but after that he was gone. But they just, it's amazing. It's
amazing how fast they are. And for whitetail are going to drop. Well, one tip on whitetail, I do not want a whitetail looking dead at me, ideally. I can't. What I will shoot at 20 yards in and what I'll shoot at 30 and 40 yards is totally different, right? A whitetail, when he has his head up, cannot duck and drop as fast as when he's got his head down. When he has his head down feeding, he can drop and duck much, much faster. The throwing his head up and pushing his body down. So if you can catch that deer looking away from you or not looking at you with his head up, it's much better to shoot him then than it is with his head down. That will cut how fast they can duck in half. So, I always try, I have shot them in the soybean field with their head down in the soybeans, but, I hate to have a deer super alert, focused on me trying to shoot him. Never silhouette yourself. What's that?
Yeah. How much grace do you give, like, when I'm trying to think of how to word this. You've got let's say you've got a whitetail buck in front of you, and like you said, he's staring at you. Maybe the slightest little sound got his attention or whatever, and they just feel like they're burning a hole through you, and you're drawn back, and that sucker is just suspicious enough he's about to bolt.
Right.
You take that shot.
If he's at 40 yards, you can take that shot and you're probably not going to hit him. If he's at 30 yards and you have a fast bow, aim for the bottom third, because when he drops, he's going to drop into the arrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if he's at 40 yards and he's looking at you alert like that, you're probably wasting your time, right?
What about 20 yards?
I want to shoot him all day. I'm never even going to hesitate thinking about it.
Yeah.
And one thing people do is today's bows are really fast. I mean, they're awesome. I shot a deer earlier this year. He was at 40 something yards when I drew back, but then he came in, it's about dark, and he's walking straight to me, and all the other bucks are running. And when I ended up shooting him, he was at 33 yards, and he dropped and moved a little bit, but it put a 3-blade rage straight through his shoulder blade out the other side. And I was high, like he didn't run 40 yards, but I mean, it literally was a pass through, and it still went through his shoulder blade. But he dropped a little bit. 30 yards in, I'm pretty comfortable. But at 40 yards, if he's looking at you, you really don't know where he's going to go.
Sure.
They just have so much time. And that video on my Instagram page where you see how much this doe drops at 18 yards. And I mean, it's a 280 feet bow. And you hear all these numbers like, oh my God, this bow is 360 feet or it's whatever. Well, great. If you're 6'4", 6'5", it might be, right? Mm-hmm. I'm 5'11". I'm like, my bow is not going to shoot that fast. I want to get 312 feet, and it's a great bow. And it doesn't matter if it's the Obsession or the Matthews, right? I'm not a 6'4" person hunting with a bow. But
I've been shooting that Matthews lift. Just
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So
you don't like it, huh?
Yeah. I love it. 99% of America would be thrilled to death to shoot the Matthews lift the way I do, but I'm telling you right now, the Obsession is more accurate and faster. And I had to take them back to the bow shop and ask Corey, what the hell is the difference? Like, what is wrong with these bows? And it was faster and it's more accurate. But one shot, understand deer anatomy. Like, it's very important to understand deer anatomy. A lot of people are scared of that shoulder blade, and they'll get too far behind the shoulder. And if the deer's perfectly broadside, that's fine. But if he's angling just a little bit or he turns just a little bit, you're going to get the one lung, or you may end up in the guts. And I tell people to slide closer to the center of the shoulder. Don't get so far back. Like, people really get focused on that behind the shoulder area. Mm-hmm. And today's bows are super strong. Like, more than likely, you're not going to hit the shoulder blade up there. But, if you do, it's not the end of the world if you're shooting a modern fast bow, right? And he's close. It will.
You can usually zip it right through that shoulder blade.
It's not that big of a deal, but a lot of people are scared to death of that. I want to be shooting right above that elbow, right there. I do not want to let the air out of him. I want to affect his blood pressure, right? The pump house. That's what I'm going for. But deer anatomy and understanding it, you almost always have a shot that you can take. One of the shots that I personally love, now I will not take this shot over 20 yards. I love that buck straight away from me in a deer stand. Maybe a little bit of angle. When he's facing straight away from me at 10, 15, 20 yards, and he's looking the other way, and I draw back and put that arrow at the back of his rib cage and run it out in front of his chest, they do not run 40 yards. And that's hands down one of my favorite shots. You want to be a little over from the spine, and that helps, if he's got a little bit of an angle. But all you have to do is get the right and left right. The up and down is very forgiving with that shot, but that is one of my favorite shots to take because they don't see you drawing back. they're not going, even if they're dropping, they're not spinning one way or the other. But understanding deer anatomy is a big deal. And
I've always wondered that. I've never taken that shot.
That's an
Jason.
awesome
Like
shot.
Yeah, and I think you have to pretty much be in a tree stand
Yep.
or like a box blind or something
That's
to have
right.
that
Right.
shot, but I've always wondered that. I've seen a lot of videos of people taking that shot, and it's always money.
It is a money shot. They will not run anywhere. It will literally look like you poured the blood out.
Yeah.
And I don't take this shot, and I may get some hate from some of your viewers or whatever. I don't take this shot often. I've taken this shot probably 20 times before. At 20 yards, I will, and they're behind a tree, the does or whatever, I will square up their hams and shoot them at the top of the hams through their ham. They will not run 60 yards, and there is a blood trail that you cannot believe. So
Sure.
yeah. So
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Well,
Let me.
you gonna show us? So for those of you audio only, he's walking us over. Oh, look at that buck.
That buck right there won the bow hunting, like Brantley's bow hunting contest here, and I shot that buck through the hams.
Oh wow, interesting, man. Yeah, I've never seen that. Do you have video of that anywhere?
I do not. That was like years ago.
Dang.
That deer's
Yeah.
deer's actually yellow now. So,
Yeah.
But there's
super cool.
Understanding deer anatomy is a big deal.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think the anatomy on any of it is really important. It's a little different on a bear, a little different on a mule deer, a little just knowing the sizes to your area. The thing that makes whitetail bow hunters so proficient is out of all these animals, they've got the smallest area you've got to hit. To really be, make sure that thing is lethal. But yeah. Anyway, well, cool, man. I told you an hour, so I don't want to keep you too long here. But
I am super struggling with the camera here, so this is good. But all of the angles and the different shots, none of that matters if you don't practice with your bow. None of that matters if you don't practice with your bow. If you don't get out there where you can make that first shot, wait till he's completely broadside, because you need all the leeway that you can get. But
sure,
taking time to learn to shoot your bow and becoming proficient with your bow, hands down, make the first shot count, and that's the biggest thing that I can encourage people with.
Well, cool, man. I'd love to, I feel like we just kind of scratched the surface here. I'd love to get you back on in the future. Maybe after season, we can do a little recap or something this winter. Does that sound good?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And you better
Sweet.
be careful inviting me to Montana, because I'll come stop by in a heartbeat.
You need to come see me in Montana, brother, man. I'd love to have you. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right.
So, well, again, Jason Wilson, tell everybody where they could find you. Yeti Man 10 on Instagram. Where else?
Yeti Man 10 on Instagram. It's there. Facebook, I think it's Jason Wilson. But some of the example videos are on there, and I'll be putting out some more. I've been busy hunting, but I've probably got 15 more videos that I've got to edit and put out. And I actually have a video that's going to go out that shows that facing straight away. I've got a video that shows that shooting in the ham, some of the alternative shots. And if he's close, again, what I'll do at 20 yards and what I'll do at 30 and 40 yards are totally different. But the frontal shot that's brutally effective on elk, it's brutally effective on whitetail too. But again, you can't, they're so fast, you can't take those shots when you start getting away from that 20 yards in.
Gotcha. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's like that, we see that, we have pretty strict, well, I won't even get, that'll open up a whole other can of worms, but, Jason, I appreciate you coming on, man. That was actually a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Gearing up. Let's just keep in touch. Keep me posted on your whitetail season, man. Thanks to Loophole, Mystery Ranch, Barnes Bullet, Secure It, Phelps Game Calls, Silencer Central, and Browning. Couldn't do this show without them. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will talk at you next week.
You made it! That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman, and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you